Base is your ability to stay on top. A strong base requires balance, center of gravity, and correct body weight distribution. Let's imagine that you're standing with your feet squared in front of someone. If they try and push you from the side, you won't easily be knocked over. However, if you're pushed or pulled from the front or the back, you'll be moved in that direction. This is because of the weight distribution of your base. If you then move your feet directly in front of each other, you have a strong base forward and backward, but not side to side. But if you were to stand in a staggered stance, this gives you strong base in all directions. This is why the staggered stance is such an effective stance for all martial arts. It's an athletic stance that provides base in all directions. Now let's look at base as it applies to ground fighting. When you're in top position, you can be on both knees, both feet, or one knee and one foot. It's important to be able to redistribute your weight in response to the forces applied to you by your opponent. What this means is that you need to be able to respond when you're pulled or pushed in any direction, and we do this by redistributing our weight through posting. Posting is simply framing against the mat or your opponent. The word frame and the word post can be used interchangeably. They're the same thing. Posting is a more common term for framing in top position, so we'll stick with that vernacular, but understand that posting is framing. Let's look at an example of redistributing weight by posting. When you're in top position with your opponent on the ground, your legs keep you on the ground. They guard your torso from touching the ground. Remember that your legs are your lower guard, and remember that your guard has layers. Here I swept my opponent the first time because he didn't adjust his body weight, but when I attempted the sweep again, this time he switched from his knee on the mat to his foot, and I was unable to sweep him as a result because he effectively redistributed his weight, maintaining a strong base. When you're on your feet, you're in layer 1 of your defense, and when you're on your knees, you're in layer 2 of your defense. Being in layer 1 of your defense generally provides more defense. However, to get chest to chest, you need to be low to the ground, so you'll need to go from your feet to your knees. There are times that it's great to be on your knees, side control and mount being obvious examples. There are also times when it's risky to be on your knees rather than your feet. As a general rule of thumb when passing, you do not want to be on your knees unless you're chest to chest or in the process of getting chest to chest. I say generally because there are exceptions. Still, it remains true that more often than not, being on your knees without chest to chest connection will leave you vulnerable to sweeps and submissions because it's more difficult to redistribute your base as needed. You lack the mobility that your feet on the mat offers. One of the risks of being on your knees without chest to chest connection is that if you're pulled forward, it'll disrupt your base. When your butt comes off your heels, this puts you in a vulnerable position to be swept, a transitional state. You want to be all the way forward or all the way back, not in between. A great example of this would be a scissor sweep, which one of the requirements to hit the sweep is to pull your opponent forwards and sweep them as their butt comes off their heels. A John Wayne sweep demonstrates this as well, as the off-balancing is done when the top player's weight comes forward. In both examples, the sweep is executed during the transitional state as the top player is being pulled forward. Neither sweep is possible when the top player is on their feet, they're layer 1. When you're on your knees without chest to chest connection, you must grip or frame on your opponent to prevent yourself from being pulled forward. If you're on your knees without chest connection, you should not post your arms or elbows on the mat, as when you do, you leave yourself vulnerable to back takes, sweeps, and submissions. You generally only want to post on the mat with your arms when you're on your feet rather than your knees. Your opponent cannot pull you forward because you already are forward. When you're on your feet with your butt in the air, this leaves you vulnerable to sweeps and submissions as well, especially balloon sweeps. With a balloon sweep, one of the requirements to hit this sweep is to pull your opponent's weight forward and sweep them as their butt comes off their heels. When your feet are on the mat, the only time it's safe to have your butt in the air is if you're gripping or framing on the mat, or your opponent, or your chest to chest. This is known as tripoding. Another benefit of tripoding is that you can use your head to frame against your opponent or the mat. This will give you the ability to use your arms freely. You can use them to take inside position on your opponent.